All right, thank you everyone again for joining our session. And I would like to welcome you once again to the Nigeria M365 community, where we'll talk about everything Office 365, enterprise mobility plus security, and Windows 365. So today's session, we're going to continue from actually where we started last week. Let me introduce myself briefly. I'll be your host today. My name is Emmanuel. I'm a digital transformation professional and with experience in infrastructure, cloud services, and productivity applications. With a focus on enabling businesses, I'm using technologies to optimize organization strategy. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, and I have a couple of other Microsoft certifications. So in today's session, we'll be having our special guest on the call. And before we dive in, our housekeeping rule remains the same. So the session will be recorded. It's currently recorded and it's been made available for future viewing. And if you're not talking, please kindly mute your mic. And if you have any questions, you can use the chat window or pen down your questions. So there'll be a session for the Q&A where you can, ask your questions and the questions will be attended to. So we have a Twitter handle at NGM365. You can follow us. We are also a LinkedIn page. With that URL, I'll also share it in the chat with us. You can follow us on the LinkedIn page. We share stuffs on the LinkedIn page. Then our YouTube channel where we have all our recording, uploaded for future viewing. So we have it, and it's also be shared with us too. So that in case you want to check out our previous sessions, there's something you would like to revisit, so the recordings are made available there for us. So today's session, we have one of our Microsoft 365 subject matter experts in the house today. His name is Elvis. Elvis Akandu. Elvis is a diligent and resourceful technical support engineer. He's endowed with good knowledge of cloud technologies and operational support, service level agreement, and customer service management. He's also a Microsoft certified trainer. He's a Microsoft security administrator and a cybersecurity analyst. He's actually a specialist when it comes to information security, keeping organizations secure, their data, their infrastructure secure. Elvis is your go-to guy. So we are actually happy to have you today, Elvis. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to turn on your camera so that we can see you?
Yes, Itoje, thank you so much. The camera is turning on.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, nice to meet you. Nice to see you again, Itoje. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
So before you jump into the session, before I go to the backstage, what should we look out for into the session?
Okay, so today, I was able to go through. I mean, I joined the session the last session, and I was able to go through the recording as well. And I saw that we talked about auditing, e-discovery, the permission levels, and all. So today we're going to center on sensitivity. We're going to talk about compliance as a whole. What is compliance, and why is Microsoft having this bogus compliance setup? You know, we need to understand why we have what we call sensitive info types. We also look at the retention labels and sensitivity labels, look at the both differences. And what do we have to do? We have 1 hour, so we could just try to do what we can do. But about compliance, if we had to talk about compliance, it's going to take a lot of time. So we're just going to be very brief and concise as well. So that's what we have to do today.
All right, thank you so much. I look forward to this session. So I'll be
All right.
going to the backstage now, so you can have the floor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Itoje. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. My name is Elvis Akandu. I am a Microsoft certified trainer. I'm a Microsoft certified security associate admin, and I'm also a cybersecurity expert as well. We're going to be talking about sensitivity and info types, labels, retention policies and all. But before we do that, I like to do one thing. I like to take us back to what compliance is as a whole. Great. So if I'm gonna ask, what is compliance? Why is Microsoft having us to having this bogus setup, different policies, different options in the compliance? It means that every organization that doesn't have a compliance setup, it means that something is wrong. Compliance is a form of complying to, policies, to adhere to decisions, policies, internal, external policies, external laws, regulations, standard, and agreements. That's what compliance is. And Microsoft is a very big organization, and in form of exchanging emails, in form of typing your documents and trying to work with the whole Microsoft product and services. There are points in time where you need to put in your sensitive information like your name, your email address, your phone numbers, your account numbers, your driver's license details, which are very personal to you, both the PIIs and the SPIIs. So there needs to be various policies or guidelines that organizations have to adhere to. So that's what compliance is. Because you're dealing with informations of other people, not just yours. So you need to be under some certain guidelines, external laws and regulations overall in carrying out your business. Now, if we look at the Office 365 Admin Center, I'm going to share my screen right now. I want us to look at what we're doing today. 1 second. We're going to look at basically the data lifecycle management, and we're also going to look at information protection as well. I'm sharing my screen. I'm going to take us to this compliance window. Yeah. Please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Great. Thank you so much, Itoje. All right. So looking at the compliance admin center, which was previously security and compliance, but over a couple of months ago, Microsoft changed it to the Purview, Microsoft Purview Center, which has been sectioned to deal with everything about compliance. Right. We're going to be looking at data lifecycle management today. Now, I'm going to ask, what is data lifecycle management? When you hear data, the lifecycle for data, and how you manage the data, what comes to your mind? DLM, it's an approach to managing data throughout its lifecycle, from the moment the data is entered into the environment or into an Excel or a document to when the data is destroyed. The data is separated into phases based on different criteria. It moves from stage to stage. So that's what data lifecycle is. What do you do as the admin? How do you protect your company's data? Understanding security as a whole or compliance as a whole in terms of your organization, it means a way for you to protect the users of the organization and also protect the organization's assets and data. That's what security is overall. Whatever definition you want to give it, this is the basic. Protecting the users in an organization and also protecting the organization as well, because every organization has assets that are very much valuable. So if you look at the past, different data breach that has happened in the past, Equifax that happened in 2021 also, I think they spent over half a billion to resolve that issue. So you see why data breach is something that admins need to look into seriously. So for you to have very minimal data breaches or not even have it at all, you need to understand what data lifecycle is. Now we're going to go to data lifecycle management. It's section 2. We have the Microsoft 365 and the Exchange legacy, which wasn't here before. Previously, this could only be found in the Exchange Admin Center, but when the Purview was created and everything about compliance was sectioned here, and we have it here. We're going to look at this. What does this entails when it comes to Microsoft data lifecycle management? The overview, as I've said, it's the way you manage data from the day it was entered and today, the day you decide to destroy the data. Here it says it provides you with the tool and capabilities to retain the content that you need to keep and delete the content that you don't, which means there is a certain time where you need to input data, and there's going to come a time as well where you need to destroy data, right? Because you can't hold some data, certain testing data for so long. We're going to look at this is the overview, right? This is what it means. Now we're going to look at the first one here is a retention policy. What are retention policies? These are policies that you can create from the Purview Center to either retain data or to destroy data. That's it. Yeah. So over here, I have two policies that I've created here. And in the course of this session, we're going to create a new policy and look at the various options inside the policy. Now, one thing you should know about retention policy, it is very similar to litigation hold in terms of emails, right? But retention policies is vast, it's broad. It can be applied to exchange items, emails, can be applied to missing events, can be applied to SharePoint sites, can be applied to individual OneDrive storage. It can be also applied to Teams chats, messages, and channel, whereas litigation is only on emails. So you see the difference. Litigation emails, right? Retention policy, you can apply to all of this I've mentioned earlier. Yeah, so we're going to look at this policy. So here it says your users create a lot of content every day, which is very true, from emails to Teams and Yammer conversations. You use these policies to keep the contents you want and get rid of what you don't need. Remember, in this session, what is data lifecycle management? How you retain the data that has been created and how you destroy the data that is no more needed by a user or by the organization, right? So we're going to start the new policy. Every policy has a name. Everyone has a name. I have a name, and every organization has a name. So the policy also must have a name. So we're going to call this new test. And definitely, we need to also describe these policies. As an admin, always make sure you describe your policies because for organizations that have more than one global admin, you need to describe a policy that you have created. So if a different admin comes in and is about to create the same policy, he sees what has been created, he opens it and looks at the description. It's similar or the same thing as the policy he wants to create, he won't create it anymore so as to avoid duplicate policies. So in this case, I'm going to say test for M365 community. So next here, this is the policy scope. In this session here, you might have created admin units before in your organization, but if you don't, by default, is applied to the full directory. That's everyone in the organization. You as the admin can have you can now scope it, so you can now scope it to who you want to apply to. So at this point, I'll hit next because I don't want to apply to a certain scope. I want to apply to everyone. Now, this session here, it's we have two here. Locations can be specified dynamically with an adaptive scope using attributes or properties. If you're very familiar with creating groups in Azure, there are three ways to create group. You can have the distribution list, you can have a Microsoft 365 group, and there's a group called dynamic distribution group. This group is being populated based on the attributes you have specified in the creation. If you want to add users who are all in Lagos, whose location in Canada, once you put in the attributes there, that automatically reads the organization and picks everyone whose location is either Lagos or Canada and adds them to the group. In this case, it's the same thing. So if you want to create an adaptive scope, right, group based on certain departments or a site URL or certain users defined by you, based on the organization's policy, you can choose the adaptive group. But for me, in this training here, we're going to go with static because I want to choose these locations myself. So I'm going to hit next, and here we are. So what I said earlier, that you can apply this policy to Exchange, mailboxes, SharePoint, both classic and communication sites, OneDrive accounts, groups, and sites. And if you look at the bottom here, you have Skype for Business, public folders, Teams channel, Yammer messages, and the rest. You can also choose to either include all mailboxes, or you want to choose a certain group of mailboxes, and you can also choose to exclude someone. Remember, you can create as many policies you want to create as an admin, depending on what the policy you're creating is for, right? So you can choose to exclude somebody here in this policy. Maybe you want to create a policy to retain emails of 7 years, and you have someone in the organization, maybe the CEO or the CFO, and you want his emails to be retained for as long as. You can create a separate policy for that CEO and the CFO to retain forever. But for this user, so in this case, you will have to exclude the CFO and the CEO on this policy, then apply them and create another policy and include just the two of them. So I can create this policy as well and choose to, let me remove this guy here. I can create this policy. Instead of choosing all mailboxes, I can choose to apply to just one person here. So it's going to be applied to just one mailbox here instead of all mailboxes. Like my trainer, when I was learning Office 365, always say, this is the admin center. You can play around it. It doesn't break anything. But before you play around it, make sure you've tried it in your test environment. That way, you know what the policy does, how a policy acts, and that way you can apply to whoever you want to apply to. This is also SharePoint sites. If you click on all sites, you can exclude a certain site as well. This is OneDrive account. You can also choose to exclude some users OneDrive. It depends. So, this is a policy. You can set it up how you want to set it up. So in this case, I'm applying to everyone. All mailboxes, all sites, all users OneDrive account, and all Office 365 group. Hitting next, we have three different ways, three different settings here we can choose to select. Is that we choose to retain items for a specific period of time, or we retain items forever, like I've previously said, or we choose to delete items when they reach a certain age. What does that mean? In this case now, this is 7 years. I want to retain items for a certain period of time. Let's say 5 years. Now, how is this 5 years calculated? Items are created, items are modified. Do I want to start calculating 5 years from the dates of the creation of this item? It could be email, it could be OneDrive file, it could be a created document in SharePoint. Remember, you've applied it to all of those groups there. Do I want to apply, do I want to start this policy? Do I want to calculate the retention policy based on the last time it was modified or created? You have the option here. And you can also choose to do nothing at the end of this 5 years. Do I want to delete these items automatically? I mean, after 5 years, if an item has been, let's say last time, today is 2023, and 5 years ago, let's say an item was modified 5 years ago. After the 5 years ago, do I want to do nothing, or do I want to delete items automatically when it gets to the 5 years? You can choose the option here. You can also choose to retain items forever, or you can now choose to delete items that are older than 5, 7 years based on these two attributes as well, when it was created or when it was last modified. So you should always look at that. Most times people raise tickets and complain that a user has lost data, and when you check the policy that was created by the admin, the item got deleted based on the policy. But most times these admins do not even understand a policy created. So for us here, we need to understand that every policy you create, you need to understand what it does, and you need to understand what it's for. So we're going to choose to retain items forever, and we can hit next. And this is the policy. I can choose to submit this policy. Now, this policy has been created, and we've applied the policy to Exchange mailboxes, SharePoint sites, and OneDrive and groups. Now, I want us to understand one thing here, right? When you're talking about retention policies, remember that it's going to affect the mailbox storage if we're looking at emails now, right? So any user who has an email, any user who is under this policy, a retention policy, can delete emails from the mailbox, right? But the email will be saved or stored in the user's recoverable items. I was able to go through the video, and I heard we talked about MFC mapping, which is a tool that shows you the structural view of the mailbox, the skeleton, how the mailbox is, all of the IPM subtrees and everything, how the subfolders and primary mailbox folders were created, and how you can change everything. The MFC mapping also helps you to see the retention, the recoverable items folder of the policy, as well as the purges. Now, when you delete an email from an account that is under a retention policy, that email is saved in the recoverable item. Now, remember, by default, the default storage capacity of a retention policy of the recoverable item, sorry, it's 30 gigabytes. But for users who are under this policy, it could be expanded to 100 gigabytes because they are under a retention policy. Why? Is because Microsoft knows that any email that is deleted from an account or from a mailbox that is under a retention policy, the item doesn't get deleted. It's not purged out of the mailbox. That item or that email is being saved in the recoverable item. So for the recoverable item not to be the same way as a user who is not under a policy, there has to be a difference. So Microsoft has set it that any user who's under a policy, retention policy, can have a retention, a recoverable item folder of 100 gigabytes, and it could be expanded as well, as much as emails come into the recoverable items folder. Now, someone asked a question one day, what if a user is under a retention policy and the user's mailbox gets deleted, what happens to the emails? If you look at my screen here, you have what we call inactive mailbox, right? So not all mailbox can be found here. Mailboxes that can be found here are mailboxes that are under a certain retention policy, and if for some reason they are deleted, they can be found here, and they can be restored as well. They can be restored using PowerShell commands. So either an existing mailbox or a new mailbox that you create, you can put in the mailbox in the PowerShell command and do the restore, and the emails would go back in there. Remember, no email is lost because everything that has been deleted is under the policy, so it's still retained. So that's about retention policies. Really quite interesting because Microsoft understands that to run a business, people might want to delete items and want to restore them. And for that to happen, they need to come up with something that is, very interesting, something that they can work with, something that they can have control over as admins. They can play around and still have their data when it's set properly. So we're going to look at the labels now. Please, if anyone has a question or a suggestion or a contribution, please you can signify by the icon so we can get it treated while we proceed to the next steps. Now this is the retention labels. What does this do? Create labels for items that need exceptions to your retention policies. So if you want to accept, so just to have an exception or create an exception to some items, you can create labels here and publish those labels to certain users or certain groups of people that you want to publish them. Let's create one here. Let's see what it looks like. So let's create a name. We can call it test as well. Test. Like I said, always describe your policy so any admin that comes in here can see a label or the policy that has been created. So we're going to say test for M365 again. For the admins, I may just say test again. And we can hit next. So this is it now. The label has to be properly defined. Every policy has to be defined. So this label too has to be defined. We can apply this setting to if you choose to choose the settings you choose to label items. Now we can either choose to retain items forever or a specific period of time, or we can enforce certain actions after a certain period of time, or we can just label them. So let's choose to retain these items over a certain period of time. Now the period is, we can say 7 years. We can start the 7 years by when the items was last modified and say next. So what happens when this 7 years has ended? Do you want to delete these items automatically? Do you want to start a disposition review? Do you want to change the label? You want to run a Power Automate flow or deactivate the label? In this case, I choose to delete items automatically. And I'm hitting next, and I'm creating the label. Now, so it says we can publish this label to, I was going to say that here. So in this case, let's just click done. Let's just do nothing for now and done. If you notice the retention policies, we were able to scope and apply the policies to some users. We can choose who we want to apply to and who we don't want to apply to. But in this case, labels can just be created, right, without being applied to any user or any group or any SharePoint site. But there is another option here to publish labels. This is where we can publish a label to a certain group of people. So we choose this label what we've created and we add it here and we say next. We still don't want to apply to any admin units. I want to apply to the full directory and hit next. We can also choose to do the static one, not adaptive. Now, this is where you can apply to the locations. Now you can have the option, you have the option to either include all locations, include content in Exchange email, the groups, OneDrive, and SharePoint documents, or choose some specific locations you want to apply this policy to, which is not different from what we did in the retention policy. So I'm going to apply this to every, let me not apply to everyone because this is test environments. Let me just apply to, let me turn off SharePoint, OneDrive, and groups. Let me turn this off, and apply to just my email here, which is mine. And look for it. So this is it here. And I'm applying this to myself. I'm gonna hit next. Name of the policy, let's say tests. And I'm not gonna describe this one, and I'm gonna hit next and submit. So that's the label we've created. Remember, one thing you should remember about retention policies and label, it talks about how you retain data that has been entered to your environment and how you destroy data that you do not want. Once you understand this basic, right, everything you're creating here, that's what is going to, that's what's going to guide you throughout you being here in the data lifecycle management. And now this is the label policies that we have. We've published the label, of course. Okay, so this is still about publishing labels to users and can apply them to their contents. So you can actually choose to apply labels here and users and set a scope for users to apply them to various contents. I'm not going to create anyone here. Yeah, don't create anyone here. So we can now look at the adaptive scope. When we were talking about this retention policies here, increasing the policy, in one of the options here, we saw adaptive scope and static. And I chose the static because I wanted to choose the location myself, right? So if you choose adaptive scope, right, you get to create the scope yourself. If you want to scope it, just like the dynamic distribution group, if you want to scope it to a certain group of people who are aligned under a certain attribute or a location as the attribute, that can be found here. This has been moved to a new page, and you can always play around this and go to a new page. It's under roles and scopes here. I created one myself, and I created this scope just to myself. I used the email address attribute and I selected just my address. So if I was going to go for this option, I'm going to scope the retention policy just to only me, because based on the attribute, I selected my address only. So that's it. So we're going to go back to retention policy and now look at the policy lookup. So if you have if you're trying to troubleshoot an issue, and someone has an error message coming into the Outlook, to the mailbox, and it says that this is happening because the user's recoverable items folder is full. Most times users get that error message on the Outlook because a certain policy has been created and they've been applied to the policy. And based on that, content on their mailbox is not getting purged out of the mailbox. So it's increasing in size, deleting items out of the mailbox. It doesn't get purged out. It goes to the recoverable items. And when the 30 gigabytes gets full, right, you need to check to see what is happening. So you can just come in here, select the user, and put in the user here, and you see the policies that is applied to that user. So this is a very good tool to start a troubleshooting in that regard. And this is import. This is a very important option here in the data lifecycle management, a very, very, very important one. What is import? It is used to import services or to move emails, PST data files from the organization server, or I mean those PST files you've saved into the Office 365 mailbox. So you can move data into mailboxes in different ways. You can use the PST migration, which is importing the PSTs from the Outlook. You can also use different migration methods. We have the remote move, you have the cutover migration, you have so many, you have the IMAP migration, you have so many of them. And you can also use this PST import method as well to import PST data into a mailbox using Azure AZ copy, right? So but we're not going to carry out the job here today because this is going to be a topic for another day. I believe, I mean, we can, if we're going to have a session later or maybe after now, this is something I'll be happy for us to look into as well. But let's just review this and see what it looks like. Now, what is the PST? The PST is that data file that you have saved or exported from a user's Outlook. You've cached the data from the Outlook mailbox over a certain period of time, and you've exported it as a PST file. Now, let's say you exported a group email PST, and you want to import this group email PST to another user, and you want this emails from this group email to reside or to go into the mailbox of the user, not just by the site, inside the mailbox. You can use Azure AZ copy. Let's do this and see. This is a test. Hit next, upload the data to the cloud, of course. So you're going to use, this is the review. So this document here, if you're trying to import the PSC, there is a guide here. It's a companion guide that helps you upload email PSC data. Click on this link and everything you need to know is there. You need to copy the SAS URL, and the SAS URL, you need to provide the source destination URL, the source URL and the destination URL. And in the course of this upload, you have to download Azure AZ copy. Like I said before, this is a tool that you use to upload the PST to the cloud, and you map a CSV imputing the user you want to import these items into his mailbox, putting the user's address in the mapping file. Once you do that, you click on this and you can access the mapping file. You hit next and everything is going to be uploaded. It's a very simple process, very easy, but you need to follow this guide. This guide is very, very important. The first day I did this PST import, this was the guide I used. It was very technical at first, but when you understand that you need to get the source, your sources, where have you saved this PST? That's the source, right? And the source URL is here, and you can now put in. Let me show you what it looks like. This is the SAS key. Yeah, that's coming up. So while that's coming up, you have the destination and the source. So once you put in all of this, edit them on a notepad, and you can run them using the Azure AZ copy. You can import the files using the import method. So let's go away from here and look at something very, very interesting as well. Okay, we have it here. Let me copy this to the clipboard, and I'm going to share that with us as well. 1 second. So I have this here. 1 second. Delete, paste. So if you open this, it shows you everything I've talked about here. This is how the import works. You upload the file to the Azure storage. You download the PST import to is the AZ copy, and you upload the PST. You create the PST mapping file, and you create the import job. You filter the PST, and you start the import. This is I'm trying to look for the mapping file. Okay, so for you to do this, please look at this document very well. You can read it extensively. It's very straightforward, and it explains to us how we can import PSTs that has been saved already to various Office 365 mailboxes. You can also import data to archive mailboxes as well. And all of this we can see in the data lifecycle management. How do you manage data that has been created? How do you retain it? For how long do you want to retain it? And how do you destroy the data? That is what this data lifecycle management is all about. Now, let's not forget that we have the Exchange legacy here, which also tells us how we want to manage emails that we have in our mailboxes. So this one here is scoped to Office 365, which is it's comprised of SharePoint URLs, Exchange items, meetings, Teams, OneDrives, and all of that. But this one is only applied to Exchange. This was formerly in the Exchange Admin Center, but has been moved here because it is a compliance feature and should be here. So we talk about retention policies and retention tags. What are retention tags as well? Retention tags are this. Tags are visible to end users and can be used to specify when items in users' mailboxes will be moved to the archive or removed from the mailbox. Most of the time, admin raise tickets or ask questions about this. So I think we need to understand what this means. Now, there are different kinds of tags. We have the personal tags, we have the default tags, and we have the folder tags. Now, what is a personal tag? A personal tag is that tag that you create and a user in his Exchange mailbox can decide to apply that tag to a certain folder. You can apply a personal tag to a default mailbox folder, but you can apply a personal tag to a folder that an inbox subfolder. So personal tags are those tags that an admin creates and it's open for everyone. They can access it from their Outlook environment and choose to apply those tags to various personal created subfolders. And in here, you have so many of them. You have the 1 month delete, you have the 1 week delete, you have 1 year delete. You can have a folder and you don't want to keep emails for more than 1 year. You can apply this 1 year delete to it. Once an email item has gotten to a lifespan of 366 days, which is 1 day over 365, that item gets deleted. That's what the tags are for. Now you have default tags. What are default tags? Default tags are those tags that are applied to the whole mailbox by default. Once you apply that tag, it's applied to all the folders inside the mailbox. And most times, what kind of tags? What kind of tags do we create like this? If you look at this default MRM policy, we have just one default tag, which is 2 years move to archive. It means that in this case that you can create, you can create default tags. You can create the tags. You can create the tags and choose to either scope it, whether I want to create a mailbox, a default tag, a default folder, or a personal tag, right? So the reason why the archive tag is always created as default is because what is an archive? An archive mailbox is that mailbox that's the secondary mailbox of a primary mailbox that helps you move contents or emails to it to free up space in the primary mailbox. And what contributes to filling up space in the primary mailbox? Both your default folders, which is the parent folders, or the primary subfolders. All of these folders contribute to filling up the storage of your mailbox. So if you want to apply, if you want to create an archive policy, that means you want emails that have gotten to a certain age or a certain duration, probably 2 years or 3 years. You want to move those emails to emails of 3 years and above. You want to move those emails to archive so as to free up space in the primary mailbox, just to keep only emails of 3 years and 3 years and later in the primary mailbox. What this means is emails from day one and up to 3 years will be kept inside the primary mailbox, and any emails that is 3 years and after 3 years or above 3 years will be moved to the archive. So that's where you can create a default tag. You have the folder tag as well. Is the tag you can choose to apply to whether the inbox, the deleted items, sent folders, or the outbox or the drafts, which are those default folders by Microsoft. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we've talked about default tags and the folder tags. So this is default for all the mailboxes. This is folder tags. As you can see, we have just the parent folders here, which is those folders that comes to your mailbox. We have the calendar items, the deleted draft, and all of them here. And we can also choose to create personal tags. I'm not creating anyone here because we have a lot of them here. Now, tags make up a policy. You can choose to have more than one tag in a policy. So this is the default MRM policy, and it has different tags here. Remember, these tags, some of them are personal, and this is the default tag. This one, never delete. I think this is a folder tag, which is applied to the deleted item. So we also need to understand this because in trying to keep data, emails in your mailbox, and destroy emails or delete emails you don't want, which is the overall basic definition of what a data lifecycle management is. You need to understand the tags, both the retention, the personal tags, folder tags, and the default tags. And like I said earlier, the various tags make up a policy. You can't create a policy without adding a tag. Let's create a new policy here. So let's say I have someone who wants to move emails of 5 years and above to the archive. All right. So I'm going to add a tag here. Remember, whenever you hear archive, it means you have to create a default tag. So this is this is adding a policy. Let's go to tags. Let's create a new tag and apply this tag. Say 5 years archive. All right, and we hit next. Make sure you describe your policy so other admins can know what the policy is meant for. So I want to create a default tag to apply to all the mailboxes, all the folders I have in my mailbox, whether it's a created subfolder or it's a primary folder. So it's going to apply to everything, the entire mailbox. I'm going to create this, and I'm going to say move to archive. But we can still, so let's say 5 years. So 5 years worth of emails will be 365 times 5. That's 1,825 days. That's 5 years, right? So do I want to delete and allow recovery, which is also an option? You can choose to delete these emails that have gotten to 1,825 days, which is 5 years, and also allow those emails that have been deleted to be recovered from the recovery of items. Or we can choose to delete those emails permanently, or we can choose to move them to archive. So in this case, I want to move these emails to archive. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to submit this tag. I've created this tag. And the sole reason why I created this tag is to move emails to of 5 years of a particular user to archive. Now, what am I going to do? How do I apply this tag that I've created to this user? I have to create a policy to add the tag under. So I'm also going to use the same term so I can remember, or I can identify what this tag is meant for. So I'm going to say 5 years, move to archive as well. I'm going to add the tag here. And where is that tag I created? 5 years, move to archive. Okay, this is it here. 5 years, move to archive. I'm going to add it here. And I'm going to hit next. I'm going to submit this. Please, are we following? Hello, can I hear someone?
You're following, you can use the reaction in your
Yeah,
teams.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm still with you.
Okay, we're here. Thank you so much. All right, great. So we're going to the policy, this tag has been created. Now, how do I apply this tag to a user? Remember that when we're creating the retention policies, we can choose to apply to a certain group of people or to user. We can exclude, we can include, and all of that. But in this case, the next steps are here. Microsoft is very, very, very open and very helpful to admins to understand what these policies do and the next step to take. So the next step is to apply this retention policy. You need to go to the recipient mailboxes in Exchange Admin Center. There you can apply. So now let's go to the admin center to apply that 5 years move to archive to just one mailbox. And we can see, so this is my admin center Exchange. I'm going to my mailboxes. You can apply this to everyone, both user or shared mailboxes. And let me apply this to this user, contact us. And I'm going to click on the user. All right. So, I mean, I believe we have done all of this here. So let's just go straight to applying the policy to the user. I think should be here. Yes. So now for this user, the user has been under this default MRM policy long before now. So the user has a specific request. He wants to move emails of 5 years to the archive. I can choose to edit the default MRM policy and remove the 2 years move to archive and put in the 5 years move to archive. But that is going to be applied on all the mailboxes because by default, every mailbox in Office 365 is under the default MRM policy. So you being an admin, if someone has a need to have emails moved to archive. So you need to create a specific policy and apply just that policy to that user. Because if you remove the 2 years move to archive tag and replace it with the 5 years move to archive tag, once you save that policy, once MRM policy is run by default, I mean the SLA is 7 days for the MRM to run on all the mailboxes. Once it's run, it changes. And if users have had emails 2 years moved to archive, from that day the policy was saved. And when MRN kicks in on any particular mailbox, emails of 5 years will be moved to the archive, and users will complain that they do not see certain emails from their end. So you don't have to start troubleshooting and understanding what has been done. So for you to avoid all of that, just create a specific policy and apply it to the user. Once that has been done, once the 5 years emails have been moved, and you can confirm from the mailbox, type in emails or go to the, okay, sorry, we're going to do that here. So we're going to apply this to the user. This is the default MRM policy. And I have my policy I created here, 5 years, and I can save this policy, right? So after saving this policy, I expect that when next MRM is run or is triggered on this mailbox, right? I expect emails of 5 years to be moved to archive. But we, in the Office 365 scope, we know that the SLA for message record management is 7 days. So if you want to apply, if you want MRM to kick in immediately, like if you want to instruct MRM to run immediately, you apply this policy to the user. Use this command via PowerShell. I mean, you connect to Exchange PowerShell, of course. Use this PowerShell command, put in the identity of the user here, and run. It is called start manage folder assistance command. This helps you instruct MRM to start processing that policy for that mailbox immediately and not wait from 1 to 7 days. Most times it could start on the first day, second day, third day, but the SLA is 7 days. So it could still delay from, I mean, it could still start on the 7th day. So if the user doesn't want to wait, you can just run this command to kickstart the MRM policy on the mailbox. So how do you know these emails have been moved successfully? You go to the mailbox, right? Go to Outlook and do a filter of the emails, selecting the date, which is the last email that was received. It will tell you the last email you have here. So where is my view? My mailbox is looking very funny. Okay, this is the filter here, right? So I'm going to sort this based on the date, right? Oldest email on top. So I'm going to use this one here. Oldest email on top. So this is going to change my mailbox and show me the oldest email I have here. So after running the MRM policy, to know that this policy has been successful, you check here, right? Change the filter to sort by date, of course, and the order should be on top. The last email you see here should be an email that is below 5 years. Okay, because all the emails of 5 years and above must have been moved into the mailbox. So at this point, once you see this as an admin, what do? You come back to Exchange. You come back to Exchange, which is here, and take the user back to the default. Okay, let me refresh this. Take the user back to default because that's the aim of you creating that policy has been achieved. So once you're done with that, you change the policy from here back to the default MRM policy. Remember, the default MRM policy still has various tags that are very, very essential and very, very important to a mailbox, right? Very, very important, like 30 days delete emails, Yeah, 30 days delete emails and the rest of them, which is this one default, which is the photo tag, 30 days delete email. So if you do not apply this default MRM policy back to that mailbox, what is going to happen? This default tags that have been applied on the mailbox before would stop applying. Like when emails get to 30 days in the deleted items, they will still be there. They won't get deleted. So always make sure you look at these things, all these little things that are here. They can actually cause a very big issue in the organization. So we're going to move swiftly to information protection and what it's all about. Let's start with the overview. Um, so I have something to explain to us here. Now, if you notice, uh, sensitivity label and retention labels, they have something in common, which is the word called label. So how do you differentiate what a sensitivity label is and what a retention label is? How do you differentiate it? It's very easy, right? A sensitivity label is a label that is focused on data classification, right? Sensitivity labels they are used to classify and protect data based on its sensitivity or confidentiality, right? You can choose to scope or integrate these labels with Office applications like Teams, Outlook, Excel, and PowerPoint, and the rest of them. Why retention labels are labels used to define how long you want to retain a data or what action you want to take at the end of a retention period or how you want to destroy a data. So just have that in mind. Sensitivity is based on classification and confidentiality of data, can be applied to Office apps and Teams and the rest of them, while retention labels are just basically used to retain data and destroy data. And during that period of time, what how do you want to keep this data? And if after you want to keep it for 7 years, what happens after 7 years? Do you want to retain it for much longer or you want to delete it? So that's the clear difference. So let's not confuse ourselves with that. So the let's go to this one, information protection. This is where we talk about sensitivity label and sensitive information type. In my introduction of compliance, I explained and I said something that data are classified in two ways, maybe not two ways, but these two are very important. There's what we call PII, which is a personal identifiable information. Talk about your name, talk about your address, something that identifies you, your phone number, your name, your email address. Those are your personal identifiable information. And we have the SPII, which is the sensitive personal identifiable information. Are those very, very sensitive ones. And these ones, we can say your driver's license is in this category, your fingerprints, your facial recognition, your I mean, so it's so many of them. Your account number, your SSN for those in the US. For we in Nigeria, we have BVN, we have NIN. All of this data is classified into SPII because they are very sensitive to us and they are very personal to us as well. So Microsoft also has created this or a platform or policies that admins can create to protect the users and as well as the organization. Remember my definition about security or my definition about cybersecurity is this. Those policies, or how do you understand how to protect users' data in your environment, right? And those users are inside the organization. How do you also protect your organization's data from being, from not being found by the use of unauthorized access by users outside the organization. So this is where we can understand what these things mean and how we can play around it. So let's look at the overview. So this is the overview. What can we see here? You can apply labels to PDF files in locations that SharePoint, Exchange, Teams, yeah, all of them. We can do all of that. So let's move very swiftly into labels. Now, what are labels? These labels, they are not retention labels. These are sensitivity labels. They used to classify email messages, documents, and sites. Remember that everything here is being it's applied in Office 365 generally. It's not just Exchange, not just SharePoint sites, not just OneDrive or Teams chat. No, everywhere. Every product in Microsoft 365 or every service has a need to protect data that comes into it, because sensitive data can be transmitted in various platforms. You can send emails to people that are having sensitive data. You can send data to people on a Teams chat, right? You can create documents in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and include user-sensitive data in it. So these labels are used to classify. It can be used to classify in whether email messages, documents, and even sites and more. More in this case means Teams and OneDrive and the rest of them. So when a label is applied, whether automatically or by a user, the content or the site is protected based on the settings that has been chosen by the admin, which is what we'll be doing right now. For example, you can create labels that encrypt files. You can add content marking, watermarks, footers, and headers, and also control the user's access to specific sites. Let's be very swift now. Let's create a label. Now, user-friendly, let's create a name. I'm going to say this is test. I'm going to call, so this is the display that your users would see when this label is published in their various Office desktop applications. So you need to put in something here that makes them understand as an admin why this label was created. Remember, there's a there in Microsoft, we have admins and we have users. The users do not know what the admins know and what they see. So for you to create a label and apply it to these users, and they'll see these labels in their various Office apps, you need to specifically explain what this label is used for so these users can understand when they see it. So it shouldn't be strange to them. So let's put a name, encrypt emails with SSN. Let's use this emails with SSN. I can duplicate that. Even for the admins, you can choose to add something there so the admins can also understand what this label is used for. So labels, when they are published in Office apps, they often come with certain colors that appeal to you, and also it's also correlates with the label you're creating and how important it is, or how serious it is. So I mean, if you use red, we know what red is. Burgundy, it's danger. So let's use something like green. So this is next. So we can choose to scope this label, choose to apply this to items, files with a document created in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and more. Can choose to scope this and apply this to emails from all versions of Outlook, meeting events, protect calendar events and meeting schedules in Teams and Outlook. Also, you can also apply these labels to groups and sites. But before you do that, there's some steps you need to complete here. At your spare time, you can go through this and look at this here and apply and enable these steps here, this feature, if you need to apply a certain label to groups or SharePoint sites. You can either also choose to apply labels to schematize data assets. And what are those assets like CQ, Azure CQ, Azure Stimpers, Azure Cosmos, I mean, the RD, RDS, and all of them, all of this Azure data assets. You can choose to apply labels to them as the organization has decided. So you as the admin, you're just carrying out what has been agreed by the organization or what you have suggested to them as the admin, how you can further protect data of the users and also the organization from data breach and everything. So you can hit next here. So what do I want to do here? I can choose to either apply or remove encryption from emails. I can apply encryption on emails that meets that has a sensitive info type. In this case, we're using SSN, US SSN here. Or we can choose to add content marking, which is to add header, footers, or watermark to items that have been labeled. So let me choose these two and we'll see what they look like. So because I have not enabled that feature for group and sites, I cannot set this up until I have this license. So to protect Teams, meeting and chats, your org must have a Teams premium. I don't have a Teams premium. So I'm going to hit next here. So now let's understand this. This is very, very important. Very, very important. Now, remember I said I want to create a policy to encrypt emails that have SSN or documents that have SSN, US SSNs to it. SSN social security number is a very it's a sensitive type info, and it needs to be protected. When emails are going out with SSN, it needs to be encrypted. Or when I have documents that have SSNs in it, it needs to be it needs to be labeled and protected. So what I do, I can choose to remove encryption if the file or email event is encrypted, but in this case, I want to encrypt, so I'm not going to choose the option. I'm going to configure, and now I can choose to assign these permissions now, right? Or I can choose to let the users assign the permissions when they apply the label. So when a label is applied on an email, do I want to say do not forward? Do I want to encrypt? Remember that do not forward also encrypts an email. What does it say here? Do we have a description here of this? So when users apply the label to an email in Outlook, recipients will be able to read the message, but not forward, print, copy the content. The sender has full permissions to their message and all replies. So sometimes organizations do not want people to forward emails that have some certain sensitive info type. So you can actually set this up. Remember, you can create as many policies you want to create. You can create various labels. It depends on what you're creating and what is the reason for creating this label. What is it defining? What scope? What are you scoping it to? So always remember that. But do not forward also encrypts emails as well. So this is encrypts only. Can also apply this to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and prompt the users to specify the permissions. And we can choose to assign the permissions now, right? Users access to content expires never. Never. It shouldn't expire. In my case, I don't want this access to expire when a label has been applied on a content. I don't want it to expire. You can choose to make it expire on a specific date, or choose a number of days after the label is applied. It's your choice based on the organization needs and your recommendation as an admin. Don't forget that, right? The reason why why one is employed as a security admin or an Office 365 admin is because, I mean, this organization expect that you are coming in with some level of experience and you can guide them, you can advise them on some certain decisions they want to make based on different policies and all. So you do not feel free to advise your CEOs, CFOs, and the management on what is best for them, not you. Yeah. So in this case, I'm going to choose never, and I'm going to apply a specific permission. Okay, so I'm going to apply this to, let's say, let me apply this to myself. First, I'm going to apply this policy to me. Where am I here? I think I'm somewhere here. This is me. All right, I'm going to add this to myself. So what permissions do I want to give myself whenever I'm sending out emails and when emails meet a certain sensitive type information? What do I want to give to what permission do I want to? So let's choose this. We have some default permissions already that has been created by Microsoft. You have co-author. It means you can view the content, you can view the write, you can edit, you can save, you can print, you can copy, you can reply as, you can forward, and you can apply allow macros. So in this case, I want to give myself you have co-owner, which gives access to everything. You have reviewer, you can just review. Yeah, let me say custom. So custom means you can give certain custom permissions based on, like I said earlier, based on what the organization has decided and what you have recommended as the admin. So let me just give myself a co-author. Yeah, so I'm going to save this. And I'm going to, I've assigned this now to just myself. And I'm going to hit next. Let me see if there's anything I have to check here again. I don't want to use double key encryption. What does this mean? It's a key that is managed in Azure RMS, Rights Management Service, and the other key is this is in Azure. You can look this up as well online and see what it means. So in this case, I'm not going to choose the double key encryption. I'm just going to hit next. For content marking, what it means is I want to add a header. No, I want to add a footer. I can call this test. I can set the font size to be 10, black in color, and align to the left. This content marking can be applied to documents, basically not emails, right? So what's a watermark? A watermark is a logo that is specific to just you or the organization based on how you want to protect a certain document, like a logo that explains or shows user that this document has been marked as confidential. So we can just put, confidential here, so people can understand when they see confidential in any of those documents, it means that there is a particular sensitive information type that is in this document, and that info type is not meant to, so I have to uncheck this. That info type needs to be protected at all costs because it's already confidential. Now, auto labeling. This is where we see we talk about sensitive information types. Now, since encryption is turned on, a large amount of content might be automatically encrypted when this label is applied, which is true. We've turned on encryption in the page before. So because that has been turned on, a lot of content might be automatically encrypted, and we do not want it that way. We want to streamline this to only encrypting emails that have SSN, US Social Security Number. So we're going to turn on encryption. It impacts Office files, Word, Excel, PDF, and all of that. So let's add a condition. What's the condition? Why would an email, at what point will an email be encrypted? Or at what point will a document be labeled as confidential? At what point will a document have the footer that we've added in the previous page and tagged as confidential? Now, this is where we're going to check what it contains. Now, I'm going to add something here. So this is where we see the sensitive information type. Microsoft has 314 of them. 314 of them. You know, who can tell me what GDPR means? Please, can someone tell me what GDPR means? GDPR, please, anyone?
General data protection.
Yeah. So the EU, European Union, has this policy called General Data Protection Regulation. It was established in May 25, 2018. It means that every organization that has the capacity that you want to collect people's sensitive data, you want to collect people's sensitive information, you want to create a business that people would have to impute their sensitive data in form of while transmitting emails or creating documents and all, then you need to be under this GDPR. Means it's a compliance policy that you need to be under, which means you need to have certain policies and frameworks, certain policies in place that should help customers protect this sensitive data. Microsoft is also inclusive in the GDPR. They're also in there because they deal on collecting people's sensitive info type, and they're also they're also doing their business in the European space. So you have to be. So what I'm saying is Microsoft has put in these various sensitive info types, which is published by Microsoft here. You have Argentina unique tax ID key. You have Australian facts. You have so many of them. You have 314 of them. And you can also add more. You can add so many. So in this case, we're going to look for social security number. So I have SSN here. We have Austria, we have EU, we have France, Greece, Hungary, Spain, Swiss, and US. And in this case, like I said, I want to scope this to only US social security number. You can also have, there are also account numbers here. There are account numbers, US bank account numbers. You have so many of them. I mean, you can play around this, like I said, play around this and see how it works in your environment. Play around this. So let's add just one we've added. Let's give it a high confidence. Yeah. So if an email is being sent out and it has this, it's going to be captured. It's going to be encrypted. And if a document is created having this and sent, okay, first of all, if a document is created having this SSN, first of all, is going to be labeled confidential. It's going to have a footer as we have specified or checked that option in the previous page. And once that document is added to an email as an attachment and is being sent out, that email will also be encrypted because you are sending an attachment that has already been tagged as confidential. So that's how it works. So you can automatically apply this label. Yeah, you can also recommend that users can apply it. But most of the time, I like to, as the admin, I like to do do what the admin should do. Automatically applies label for users. And do you want these users to see something like a message why this email is encrypted? So you need to show them. So when that SSN is imputed in that email, this message is triggered, or once you're about to send the email, or once you attach that document that has been tagged as confidential as an attachment, and you're about to send the email, you're going to receive a display message. So what do I say here? This email contains, let's say US SSN, and will be sent as encrypted. So hit next to this page. Because we did not enable the settings for the group and sites in the first page, we can't enable this. But the schematized data, we can also choose to auto label this and choose the sensitive info types as well. But I'm not doing this. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to create this label. Now, the label has been created and it's been defined to encrypt emails with SSN. Oh, sorry, I couldn't publish label because it has the same name as a compliance tag called test. So I have to edit this name here, call it test2, and hit next, 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 and create the label. Now, remember that this label, when it was created, we did not apply it to anybody. We just created the label. We didn't apply it to anybody, right? So in publishing a label, you can select the label you want to publish to a certain group of people. I'm going to choose this one. So I'm going to add it. And next, no admin unit, of course. I'm going to publish to the full directory. And I can select here the users I want to apply or scope this policy to. I can choose all users and groups and hit next. And so what do you want? Do you want users to provide a justification email so as to remove the label or lower the classification? Because why creating the label, I set the classification as high. Yeah. Or do you want to require users to apply the label to their documents and email? You want to require users to apply this label to Power BI content, or you want to provide users with a link to custom help page? So I'm going to choose the second option. I don't want users to provide any justification. Sometimes people create labels to block emails going out with certain sensitive info type. So in that case, if at all that email needs to go out, sometimes you can use the option to provide a justification email. So once you provide that justification email, okay, let me check that so we can see what that looks like. Yeah, we can apply the label to documents, encrypt with SSN. Yeah, apply default label to emails as well. Still encrypt with SSN as well. It requires users to apply the labels to their emails. Remember, this is to the users you have scoped here or group. So you can choose to scope this rule, this policy to maybe the finance group or the HR group, or it depends. You can scope it to anyhow you want to scope it to, depending on the organization's policy and the agreement. We can also inherit labels from attachments. What does it say? If a label is applied to an email, then an attachment with a higher priority is added to an email. This setting replaces the existing label. Okay, so we don't want to replace that. We don't want to inherit any policy from any attachments. Sometimes admins also use this option as well, but I don't want to do that. But it's there as an option. But I'm going to hit next. apply the label to this label to calendar event and meeting as well. If a meeting is created and SSN is added to the details of the event, I mean, this is going to also catch it. Also requires us to apply this to meeting. Do you want to require them or you want it to be applied by you? I'm not going to check that. I'm going to hit next. And do you want to apply to Power BI? No. I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to give this a name and say test 3. And I'm going to hit next. And I'm going to submit this label. It takes up to 24 hours to publish this label to the selected users and apps. So that is it about label. I tell you something today, right? Rome wasn't built in a day, of course. All of this might look bogus and complex, too technical, but I promise you, the moment you understand the basics, right, which is protecting users' information, there's a need for me to do that. As an admin, even Microsoft, as a corporate organization, has various policies in place, various frameworks, various scopes in place that has been created to protect users' sensitive data and information. So you as an admin, you also need to understand that in your organization as well, that you have users who send out this information, right? And they're putting this data as well in their document as well. So there's also a need for them to protect their end. So this is where you come in, right? How do you apply these policies? Before you create any policy and you apply to everyone, I advise, please apply the policy to yourself, right? In cybersecurity, there is this thing that is being done, right? If you want to know how protected your environment is, if you want to know if your network has some ports that can be used to phish or compromise your environment, if you have, how do you know that before these external hackers get to know that? You can just join the phishing test. You can send phishing emails to people, to your environment. Try to see how you can penetrate your server. As the admin, penetrate your environment and see your loopholes, see those ports that are vulnerable, see those networks that are weak, those places that you need to enhance. As the admin, participate in this penetration testing, right? And you would see where you have loopholes. You would see where you need to enhance more security. That way, once you participate in this, you protect yourself the more. And external hackers or external people who shouldn't have authorized access to your data and your networks and all, before they even penetrate your environment, you have already seen that loophole and you've taken care of it yourself. So in this case, send an email with an SSN. You shouldn't use you might not use a legitimate SSN, but you know how many digits an SSN is. Type that SSN in a document, test document, or in a test email. Send it out and see if you get that email encrypted. If it's going to request for the justification. I mean, test it. Test every policy to yourself, or you can have a test user. Test every policy to yourself or a test group before you apply the policy to everyone or to a certain group of people in the organization. So like I said before, compliance and security is very big, and we cannot exhaust everything in one day. But the little we have done today I'm sure I've been able to help us understand or to elaborate to my senior SMEs in the house. This is something we know, but I mean, it's a very good refresher, and it's helps us to understand what we are doing and the places we still have to put in more effort, and just to understand the general overview of what security and compliance is. So this is where I'm going to draw the curtain. I hope I've done justice to data lifecycle management and information protection. And if we have questions on anything about compliance here, please, I would like us to ask the questions, and we are very, very capable to answer and resolve everything. Thank you so much for the audience. Thank you, Itoje. Thank you for the platform, for giving me this opportunity to emit this knowledge in this capacity. And I would like to do this again sometime in the future. Yeah, thank you so much. This is where I'd like to draw the curtain. And what we've done today is basically understanding what retention labels are, what retention policies are, what MRM policies are, both the tags and the policies, what start manage folder assistance command is used for, the various tags, default, mailbox, folder tag, and personal tag. And we also understand what sensitive info types are and how we can create the policy in our environment. Thank you so much. And I hope we have learned one or two on this session. Thank you so much. Itoje, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elvis. It has been an amazing session. For me, I've actually, learned enough. I mean, it has been a refresher for me, and I've learned a lot of new stuffs in the Microsoft Purview. Really appreciate it for the session. And we have Funsho hands up. So Funsho, can you go ahead and unmute and ask a question?
Hi, Emmanuel. Hi, Itoje. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you for your session. I actually have two questions. So one is related to this sensitivity label. So this is a thing I work. If I should mention the name of the company I work with, it is a very popular one. So what we do daily is we support Microsoft users. So there's this ticket that I picked lately that has been giving me an issue. Hello, am I still in the call?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All right, all right. So, this user, this admin, he created a sensitivity label on the on-prem. No, he created a group on the on-prem. So he's trying to attach the sensitivity label to it on the cloud, but he's having issue with it. So I don't know. So this is the suggestion I gave to the user that you should create the sensitivity and the group on the cloud and apply and let me see if it works. So like I just need a clearer um insight on it. Like has it ever happened to someone before? Has anyone what could have been the issue? Why couldn't they add the sensitivity label to the group? Because they are having an issue. So can I ask the second question or when he's done with that one? You go ahead.
You can ask the second question as well.
Okay. The second question is I don't know, maybe it have been treated before, but I need like an insight because sometimes I just collect say extended message trace. So I don't know. I don't know. Is there a particular way to because we request for it actually, but me personally, I don't know how to read it. I just know there is an header message ID. So there's a transport through version. So fine, there's a transport through, and there's a digit that comes with the transport through. How will I know the meaning of this transport through like this ID? I don't know if you get my question. Or let's say a mail is not delivering now. We request for a CSV, which is SEMT, extended message trace. So on that extended message trace, just a bunch of data. I don't know which. particular one that is preventing the message not to be delivered. So I don't know if you understand my question.
Hi, Elvis. You want to take any of them?
Yeah, let's start from the last question. For sure, thank you so much for the question. I want to understand your second question, yeah? So you have an, I want to understand your second question.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go to the first one later. So an email was okay, sorry, an email is being sent out, right? And it's not getting delivered, right? So have you checked the message trace event to see what is blocking the email? Is it as a result of a transport rule that was set up? Is it as a result of a connector that was set up? What is the reason? Have you checked the reason why the email is not going out? Because once you do a message trace shows you a series of events that has happened on an email that's going out. Yeah. So if a certain rule has been applied to it, most of the time the name of the rule shows up. But in recent times, I noticed that it's only the GUID of the rule that shows. So what you can do if you work with either Rave or DFM or Assist 365, if you're an internal support, you can just go to run this diagnostics in the Assist 365 display mail flow overview, and that should show you all the transport rules that is created in that environment. Look at the GUID. I think I used that to resolve a recent issue for someone. Yeah, a rule was created to forward the message to someone for approval. Yeah, and that user has left the organization, and the emails have stopped going out. Remember, there's a condition in the rule.
Yeah.
So any emails that meets that condition recently have stopped going out. So that's because the forwarded email for approval is sent to that user that have left the organization, and there's no authentication, there's no approval from that guy. So we needed to delete that rule or disable the rule. Yeah. So where I found out that, so I mean, we can use PowerShell commands to get that rule. I could share with you later after now if we can connect. I could share you the PowerShell command to use to get the GUID of the rule. But if you're an internal support person, you can use the Assist 365, run that diagnostics and get the GUID of the rule. Compare the GUID you have on the message events of the message trace, compare it to the various rules you have in the Assist 365 diagnostics.
Sorry to cut you in. I actually have access to the Assist 365, and this is the issue now. Thank you for your insight about that, about the GUID, because all I see is just GUID and number. So I don't know where exactly to. But since you've told me the diagnostic rule now, I'll definitely go about it and check. So this is the issue.
Okay.
The support, the customer said a message is being sent. When the message is being sent, the end, I mean the recipient always get the email more than 3 times when a single message is being sent. So when I now check, it's a transport rule, but I just see the GUID of that transport rule. So I don't know. But since you told me now that I should just go to the mail display mail user overview.
Mail flow overview, yeah.
Okay, mail flow overview.
Yeah, you would see all the rules there. Look at the GUID, you would see that particular transport rule that is causing that issue. Yeah, and I think we have a comment in the group as well. I mean, you can still use that to use the message header analysis. Yeah, to look at that as well. Now, to the first question, are you good on the second one?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. So on the first question, integrating sensitivity label with on-premises group.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes, definitely.
So,
Yep.
so this group now, has this group been synced to the Azure AD using AD Connect?
It is not, because I checked from the internet. It is showing me there's a wrong in connection. But I told the customer is showing me where it told me they sync every 2 hours. But me, it's showing on my end that the synchronization is not going on. So, but it's
So,
showing, but all despite the
mm,
efforts me telling him that there is no synchronization, he still insisted that there's a synchronization. So I don't
I
know, maybe
think,
I'm not the one doing it right, or maybe
I think, I think first of all, you need to understand if that group has been synced to the Azure AD using the AD
okay,
Connect, right? If that group has been synced to the Azure AD, then you can apply that sensitivity label policy on it.
it wasn't.
Yeah.
It has. It is not. It is
Okay,
not.
it's not synced yet. So if it's not synced
Yeah,
yet, I don't
because
know
it
if there is
shows
any.
from my.
Mhm.
It shows
Yeah.
that it is not. It is not.
Okay. I don't know if
The
there's
customer
any.
is this thing that it
Yeah, it
is.
is. Yeah. I don't know if there's any sensitivity label on-prem. I haven't heard of any because this sensitivity label is a cloud feature, is a cloud
Exactly.
feature. Yeah. So if a user wants to have that feature or that policy applied to any group, the group has to be synced to the cloud first before that can be achieved.
No. Okay. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Do you have any other questions from anyone? Do you have any other questions, guys? Gloria, do you have questions? Joseph, but only one. Okoyemi, do you have questions? Shegun, do you have questions? Right, seems like we're all good. Thank you so much, Elvis, for the fantastic job that you did
So,
today.
no questions, sir. That
All
was
right,
an interesting session.
all right. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Okoyemi.
Mr. Elvis. It's
Thank you.
Joseph.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
It's
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a pleasure.
All right. In the absence of no other questions, we'll be wrapping up for today. Next week we'll be having a part 2 of the session in which we'll be looking at other areas like the DLP, the record, insider risk. So I would love to have everybody join that session next week because our meetup for this year, we just have 2 more Saturdays to actually round up our meetup because we are trying to organize our conference for the community, be it a physical or hybrid event. So we need the entire December to do the planning of that conference. So we'll be running up our meetup by the last Saturday of this month. So I look forward to having everyone join us again. Same time next week. Thank you for staying this long. The session is supposed to be 1 hour, and this is almost 2 hours. But I really appreciate everyone on this call. So shout out to everyone for sure. Gloria, Joseph, Ondole, Chinke, thank you for joining. Opeyemi, Shegun, thank you everyone. And Elvis, great job. Thank you so much. I'll see you
Thank
all
you,
Thank
next
you,
guys.
week.
Emmanuel.
Yeah,
Thank you. Have a
thank
great
you.
weekend, guys.
Elvis.
Have a
all right.
great weekend.
And you
Yeah.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great, guys. All right.